For me, the story of Mary and Joseph is a great example to look back on, not just during the time of Christmas when we usually listen to the story, but in general. It's a great example of how God can choose anyone to fulfill his mission. They were a young couple, they were scared, and they had to leave life as they knew it and just start all over. And it's just a great example to always, for us to always put our trust in God and our faith in God. In today's society, young people are always underestimated or overlooked, but it shows that, it doesn't matter our age, or it doesn't matter who we are, or like what we do. It's always that if it's in God's mission, that it'll happen. We saw in today's society in Florida a couple years ago when the shooting happened, young kids took a stand and they said, we are not going to let this happen anymore, and they demanded change. And it shows that even in my life, I just gotta depend on God and put my faith and trust in God, and whatever his mission will be, it'll happen. I know coming out of high school, after high school, I thought that, I had to pick what I wanted to do in university, and that was going to be my whole life, and I had to plan it out at just 17, 18 years old. I had to pick it out, and it put a lot of pressure on me, and it was until I realized that if I trust God and I put my faith in God, that it doesn't really matter, because whatever his plan is for me is not up to me, it's up to God. So it'll happen, and I just have to put my faith and trust in God.
I think that this vulnerability that Mary and Joseph felt is so present in young people's lives today and in people's lives in general. The world we live in today is scary, and there are a lot of big changes happening. Between the Black Lives Matter movement becoming more and more prominent and important in the US and Canada, and climate change rallies worldwide, young people are the ones being called on to lead these changes. This makes them more vulnerable, but also brave. I think that young people have been chosen by God to do these things.
I think there's something really nice happening with young people now, of just being so open and vulnerable and expressive over the fact that we're just trying our best every single day, and some things suck and some things are really hard, and we're just all going yep, it's fine, we can do it, because we are all struggling and we're all just so ordinary, but we try, and I think there's something really special about the fact that we are all just basic people trying to figure life out, and I think that's pretty fitting.
I tend to be quite a go-getter. I like to immerse myself into opportunities, whatever that might be. And sometimes I do feel like I bite off more than I can chew, and I wonder if I'm the best person or the most qualified for the job. But a lot of the time, with the right support system and the right mindset, you can do pretty much anything. And I think that's why God picked Mary and Joseph, because he knew that they were the ones to do it, whether they believed it or not.
God put one of the biggest tasks in the hands of a young couple that came from nothing. No fancy life or riches, but he trusted them with his son. That makes me realize God works through all types of people.
I think that it really says something about that at some point in our lives, all of us are young and scared and ordinary and vulnerable. And it just serves as a reminder that, there is something out there that is guiding us through this, and if things will happen for us regardless if it seems like we're in a bad place, or you need help from someone. Sometimes you need to take some steps to get there, but there will always be something there for you.
Mary and Joseph were ordinary, and that's what makes the story so special, right? We know ordinary people, and God calls ordinary people for extraordinary things all the time. He calls teachers to change the lives of kids. He calls people to become scientists who have now made a vaccine for the coronavirus. God calls ordinary people for extraordinary things all the time.
Another ordinary person that comes to mind that God used is David. The story of David and Goliath. We've heard it many times growing up in Sunday school, and it's honestly such a great example. David was the youngest of his brothers. He was small. He had no right to even stand a chance against Goliath. But God had his plan set for David, and David just trusted God, and he had no fear, and he ended up beating Goliath very easily with just a one rock, and he didn't need nothing else. So it shows that God can really literally use anybody, and there's so many other examples, like whether it's Saul, who he went from killing Christians to sharing the word of God. It just shows that any one of us can be the next person that God can use to share his message. So we just have to put our faith and trust in God.
When I think about someone God has worked through, I think about the frontline workers, the doctors and the nurses who have needed the strength to keep the country going through the pandemic.
There have been a lot of influencers, I guess, that have really made a huge impact on the way that I perceive the world and the way that I think about things that are happening in the world, and even like self-perception and body image and everything like that. And it has really shaped how kind I am and how positive I am towards myself and towards others. And I think that it's something that doesn't seem extraordinary at first, but the fact that these people, ordinary people, have had an impact on me who they don't even know that I exist. And I just happen to get lucky and find these people that are positive influences in the media. And I can only think that if it has such a positive effect on the way that I view myself and I view the world, it has that effect for a lot of other people as well. And I think that the fact that there are people out there that have such a great positive effect on so many other people in the world is pretty extraordinary, the work that they can do. And I think sometimes they themselves don't even know that they do it.
The other day I went and donated blood, and I saw a room full of ordinary people doing an extraordinary thing. Even in the midst of a global pandemic, where the risk is so much higher of catching it when you go into a room of people, when you see more people, when the world is crazy and you're told to stay home, I saw so many people make appointments and donate blood so they could save lives. That is an extraordinary thing, and it's amazing.
The first person or group of people that comes to my mind in terms of who God has worked extraordinary things through is the healthcare professionals and scientists who have developed a vaccine for COVID-19, which will save so many people's lives. They spent so much time and energy creating this vaccine, going through trials, having to put people through COVID-19 in order to create a cure, and it's just going to save so many people.
I think that Laverne Cox is probably someone who God has worked extraordinary things through. She's done so much just by being a trans woman, just to advocate for trans rights and equality. And I think that that's something that takes a lot of strength, and I think that she's definitely had God helping her out to try to help out everyone in the world.
I have been lucky to have received so many blessings in my life, and I see God in all of those blessings every single day. But I feel like one of the biggest ones that is very fitting in this situation is my experience at Clay 2016. I went to Prince Edward Island for the Canadian Lutheran Anglican Youth Gathering, and I didn't know anyone from my Synod MNO other than my own youth group. And 4 years later, here we are in 2020. I have a huge connection with the Synod. I'm part of the Synod band. I worked at the Synod's Camp Luther Village for 2 years. All of my best friends, this huge community that I've been open to that I am so lucky for. God gave me all of that, and I will never ever be thankful enough for it.
I think with this question, it's really about, for me at least, like the privileges that I have, because even as a member of multiple minority groups, I still have a lot of privileges. I still live in Canada. I still get to go to school that costs lots of money, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to get money from the government and loans, and even I have somewhere to live, and I have people in my life who support me and who want me to do well, and really realistically, like, to have all of those things is, in my opinion, kind of extraordinary, because there are a lot of people out there who don't have a lot of what a lot of people would consider basic. And so I think the fact that I have multiple privileges and multiple things to be grateful for, at least definitely in some people's eyes, is pretty extraordinary.
I think I see God in everyday life through some ordinary things, like when coincidences happen. You know, it's God's way of just saying, yeah, don't worry, I got you. And it's just this, every time a little coincidence comes up, I think it's God trying to just reassure you that things are working out.
Right now, I don't see God doing extraordinary things in my life. I hope these moments do come, though. I think overall, if we look at extraordinary things that are happening in other people's lives, not getting COVID is really an extraordinary thing in the world we're living in today.
In my life, I see God in lots of places, but I really see him working through others in the church and in my community, especially amidst the lockdown we've been through, and just seeing everyone with the strength to keep going, to get things done, do what needs to be done around the church, helping to make things work and everything.
A time where I saw God work in my life was when my dad had a brain tumor back in 2011. He had to get that removed, and thankfully everything went well, and he had a very speedy recovery. But then a year later, when he went for his checkup, they realized that the bone in his skull was decaying. It was literally just melting away. It was quite a scary time for our family because the doctors were unsure of what to do. It was such a rare case. They were very hesitant about taking the next steps, and it was quite a severe injury because obviously that meant any contact to the head, it could cause like brain damage right away, because there was nothing protecting the brain. So it was quite scary for our family to see the doctors hesitant and not knowing what to do. But our family was worried, but my dad, I saw that he was not worried at all. He was very chill. He wasn't worried. He wasn't hesitant about anything. It seemed like nothing was wrong in his life. And it shows, like, my dad was a great example of just trusting God and putting his faith in God and just letting God take charge and do the work. And, the doctors ended up putting a metal plate in his head to protect the brain. And he had a very good surgery, and it was another speedy recovery. It was, and it really just opened my eye to see how much faith my dad had and how much he trusted God, and it's just a great example for me to do the same as well.